Writer's block, I believe, is another one that is dangerous because
a book is a marathon.
Mhm.
I don't want to. Which when someone gives you permission in this kind of form, it's never them telling you what to do. It's always them realizing the thing that you need to tell yourself that you don't tell yourself, that you just need to hear from someone else, even though you know that you should be able to listen to yourself just saying that.
Activate your energy.
Welcome to the Activated Authors Podcast, a show where we distill the core principles of what it takes to become a happy, healthy, and productive author, no matter what stage of the journey you're at. I'm your host, Daniel Willcocks. I'm an international best-selling author, as well as an author coach, speaker, and creative entrepreneur. But most importantly, I'm a lifelong student of all things productivity, psychology, and human behavior. Thank you for joining me for today's episode. Without further ado, let's dive in. What is up, Activators? And welcome back to another episode of the Activated Authors Podcast with myself, Daniel Willcocks, and here with me every single week is...
Samantha Frost. That's me. Hello.
Beautiful. Hello, Sam. How are you doing?
I'm so tired. I promised myself I wouldn't say anything, and I think I did really well to hold on as long as I did.
Oh, I've so been in that situation. You know, when you go into like conversations, I had it years back when I was like, I am not going to like talk about the weather at all. Like, I'm so sick of these really like crappy little small talk conversations.
Yeah.
And like 10 minutes later, I was in a lift with someone and they just looked over at me. I was like, bit windy, innit? You can't help it. It just comes out.
I'm just so tired.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure I'm like medically exhausted at this point.
I
and
mean,
I know that sounds dramatic.
No.
But I with the help of my sister, because I was so tired, I couldn't really concentrate. I averaged out every night's sleep that I've had since the 28th of March. And my like average week sleep is 5 hours. As in, that's in a week, an average night's sleep will be 5 hours. Now I'm getting 5 hours a week, otherwise I think I'd just be dead by now.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm getting like, I can't remember exactly what it was. It was just over like 4.5 hours on average a night, which means I'm like missing out on 27 hours of sleep a week.
Yeah. And obviously, feel free to cut this bit if you want to, but I know that you haven't, well, I don't think it's been explicitly mentioned on this podcast about the fact that you do suffer from insomnia. So,
yeah. No, I don't mind.
Like actual insomnia, not when people like, are struggling to sleep a bit and they're like, I've got insomnia.
Yeah.
Like, actual insomnia.
Yeah, no, actually medically diagnosed insomnia, yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And it's a bitch.
It can't be, because you get so many free hours in your day.
Well,
that's how it works, right?
Here's the thing. I used to look at it that way. Back when I joined up to this is the longest "How are you doing, Sam?" in fucking history. I've just realized.
Bring it.
I used to kind of try and tackle it that way. Because if I'm gonna like be up those hours anyway, I might as well be productive, was kind of how my brain was thinking. It's either that or I just lay in the dark and get annoyed. So I used to do that, and I did get a lot done, like more than I think is normal. But then I started to realize that I didn't want to be dead by the time I was 40.
Yeah.
So I'm really trying to set healthier boundaries for myself when it comes to sleeping. One of those is, if you wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, that is not your body saying it's time to start the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's been a lot, and I'm very tired. And yesterday I had a 2-hour nap on the floor of my living room that I don't remember getting into. I think that was a bit of ironically a wake-up call. And then just this morning when I woke up, I honestly, I was supposed to go to the gym today, and I said to Rihanna, and I was like, I don't know if this is me making excuses. I said, because saying I'm too tired for the gym. And she was like, no. She's like, you're not a bit tired. It is not advised that you operate heavy machinery in this state. And I was like, yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
So there we go. There is the longest. How are you doing?
So let's power through this episode, make it 5 minutes, and then you can jump off another.
Yeah, that's fine. We definitely haven't already surpassed that. Just me talking shit. How are you, Dan? How's it going with you?
I'm doing okay, thank you. It's been a strange week, but it's been one that's been very, very productive and weird in many ways. For multiple different things, but like continuing on the kind of saga, well, not the saga, but like the thread of previous episodes, like I am full on back into shrinking the workload mode. Well, it's not even shrinking the workload, but I guess shrinking the scope of where I'm pointing my attention. And lots of things are synced together, lots of things are working very well. There's a lot that I think one of the biggest things, if we're going to be fully transparent on this podcast, which we are sometimes, I think that the biggest thing for me is, as I say, like I've been very much in creation mode for like 7 years. Like that has been the heart of everything. It's been like push, create, ghostwriting, 70 books, all that kind of stuff. Like it's been a lot. Yeah. And so basically getting the permission from my business coach, which when someone gives you permission in this kind of form, it's never them telling you what to do. It's always them realizing the thing that you need to tell yourself that you don't tell yourself, that you just need to hear from someone else, even though you know that you should be able to listen to yourself just saying that. And so
that's cool.
I don't remember, just replay it. Or when you edit this, just cut it twice.
All right, I will.
Realizing the thing that you need to tell yourself that you don't tell yourself, that you just need to hear from someone else, even though you know that you should be able to listen to yourself just saying that. But so it was that thing of like, take your foot off that pedal and, focus on promoting all the stuff that you do already have going, because, there's so much of my books, of the community, of all things activated authors that is happening, that is already in existence. And obviously to grow what it is that you have, you need to spread the word. And I do market, but definitely not as strong as I should be. And so I think just having that bit of permission has really given me help to step back, to line up, because I'm still making creative projects. I'm still, working on the creation side of things, because you kind of have to, and because I want to. And so I'm kind of striking a bit more of that balance. I'm going through like a lot of the sludge of things that have been building up over the last few months, and I'm kind of just knocking a lot of things out to catch up, basically, relook at how I'm working going forward, because obviously my circumstances have completely changed multiple times in the last few years. But I think they're now at a point where they can begin to settle. Yeah. Because I don't foresee, touch wood, any sort of huge transitional changes coming up. Speak to me in 4 weeks and that won't be true. So yeah, like so yeah, there's just been a lot of looking at my work, adjusting, starting to look at what I'm doing next year, and as people can see on YouTube, decorating. So it's still a little bit of a mess. I've still got bits and pieces to do, but I have painted my room in a nice blue color, not because it's activated authors, because it's a different blue to activated authors, actually. Like it's different hue.
I think you'll find that activated authors is more of a royal corn blue like mashup, and that is like a deep marine Russian blue. So leave it out the comments.
Just simmer down. Like
blue is a suggestion, not a specification.
Yeah. So I painted. Like it's one of the things I've been looking forward to since I bought a house. I've got just 2 rooms painted out of like 5 or 6. So yeah, that's in a very long nutshell. How's what's been going on?
Like a Brazil nutshell. I'm trying to think of a long nut.
I guess a Brazil.
Oh, don't edit that out. Oh, it's me. I won't. It's fine.
What have you been working on?
I have been continuing with my poetry. I'm almost finished completing the poems I wish to complete. Sorry, I'm just laughing because I'm currently completing a poem that's just called Red, because red is my favorite color. It makes me laugh because it gets quite fast-paced and purple with the language, and it just starts off, the first line is, I like red. I don't know why, it just really makes me laugh.
As to the point, succinct.
Yeah. I read it. Well, what I've got of it to my sister yesterday, and she's like, "Wow!" And I was like, "Yeah, I like red." I was just like, I know it's like because most of my poems are about like abuse or like I don't know,
Political
social justice,
issues.
feminism, like all this. Then this one's like, I like red. It's really pretty. It makes me happy. So yeah, I've been working on that, and I've been up in my studio this week.
Yeah.
Homemade recording studio. Please and thank you.
Yeah. Do you want to say why?
Well, I'm happy to. I
Yeah,
didn't.
throw it out there.
Okay, me or you?
You.
All right. But-
So that was really aggressive. You do it.
as in, actually, what I'm specifically working on.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to check. I mean, I know I could edit out, but I just wanted to check. So I'm currently recording the audiobook for the self-publishing blueprint.
Hell yes.
Daniel Willcocks.
And killing it, might I add.
Oh, thank you.
Had a little listen through to the first chapter the other day, and yeah. Happy.
Yeah, raw audio. I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy that you're listening to raw audio.
It was interesting.
Yeah, because when the whole point is that is a closed room and no one is ever like no one's supposed to hear it because I can edit it out, and the trust. Because I very nearly went into our shared file and just took it out. I really had to stop myself.
Yeah, fair. But yeah, I guess like it's probably worth noting as well, like because I've had a few people asking me why I'm not narrating my own audiobook. I don't want to.
The end.
Like, yeah, like bottom line, like I don't want to. Like I could. Do I think that's a good use of my time? No. Do I have do I know someone? Do I have someone? Do I know someone who is incredibly talented at voice work and has that kind of background? Yes, Sam Frost. So
that is me.
Yeah, so Sam is working on the chapters and putting that together. So we haven't really got a schedule on when that's going to be out, but like it won't be too long, will it, Sam?
No, I'm already a quarter of the way through it.
Yes, which is very exciting. So yeah, that's to come.
It's simple enough to edit because it's non-fiction, so it shouldn't be. Yeah,
boss. Yeah,
yeah. Watch this space for more info, I guess.
We'll keep people updated. And then, is there anything else that you've been working on?
I've been working on keeping my sanity. I've got, you can't see her, I don't think. No, I've got 2 dogs with me this week. One of which is my mother's because my mother is away. Yeah, we've got to that point in the week where she started to listen to, like, I've been training her a little bit. She started to listen to my commands. So I'm starting to like her a bit. But then give it a week and like she'll be back to annoying the shit out of me because obviously, yeah.
Yeah, we'll move on. So as for me, I've been working on, as I say, lots of different bits and pieces. One thing that I'm very excited to start working on, that I did this morning, is so I'm working on a book that is currently, I don't know if I've announced this on the show, but I'm writing a reader magnet called Cock, and it's basically about like an evil rooster. And so I've been talking about this book for a while, like, and I'd say probably as far back as, maybe March, April. Mentioned it to a few of the horror guys when I went to the horror convention in May, and things progressed from there, and it sort of turned into reality. I've got a cover for it. Like I have a rough notion of what I want the book to be, but I've deliberately not dug too deep into details for the very reason that this morning I started to film and record my writing sessions because I want to. Yeah, I want to go through my process of how I write books and how I put it together. So I'm going to be hopefully doing some sort of like just main to the camera video diaries where I kind of explain thought processes and things from that session. I'm recording each actual session, like full screen recording of what programs I'm using, where I'm researching, everything else, so that, if anyone wants to follow along and just see how this book is made, then go for it. Like, and I spent a half hour on some research and things this morning, and already the story has taken like a massive twist and kind of grown in depth. So yeah, I'm not sure how I'm going to be putting all of this up yet. I haven't really sort of created like a publishing plan for the videos. because I kind of just want to focus on getting the content and writing the book. But I'll likely probably do sort of some literal follow session by sessions should people want to go more in depth, as well as like an overall summary of just kind of like, here's a book written in, I don't know, 10 minutes. Not actually 10 minutes, but like an overview. Yeah. I could, but I won't.
Yeah, of course you could. Is the sequel called Cox? And then you wrap it up with a trilogy that's called Cox and Beaver.
Yeah, and then there's like a side book called Cockily. But for the purposes of the vlog and for the purposes of SEO, it's not called Cock because I'm a bit worried that that's going to like be very limited to who gets to see it. So it's currently called the Rooster Project.
Yeah,
I'll be very careful.
Wise.
Well, the other thing
that cock.
Yeah, the other thing that I've realised as well is
up an OnlyFans.
The other thing I've realised as well is that because it's a horror book, there, like even this morning session, like I googled some images that might trigger some people and be a bit unsavory, and so I'm obviously then going to have to either do like just one version which is safe for work, or like for the people that very specifically want to watch like the full horror process, like horror writers out there, maybe just do two versions, one which is a bit more explicit, or just add trigger warning. I don't know yet. Yeah. It's all up in the air. But I found, very interestingly, there's a breed of chicken that is literally like pure black, like black eyes, black beak, black like crest, whatever. I need to learn anatomy of chickens as part of my research. Down to they lay black eggs, they have black bones, and even their blood is darker than other roosters.
Oh my God.
So I was like, this is interesting. So yeah, that's what I've been working on. I've also, as I say, just been chipping around lots of different things. I thought that was something else I was going to add. But so what's your key takeaway for this week?
That sleep is good and I wish I could have more of it. That's literally it. I'm too tired to be philosophical. I want to be able to close my eyes and open them 8 hours later and feel refreshed. Not like I have got the worst parts of being a hybrid of a zombie and a fucking vampire. Like, I've got the looks of the zombie, the consciousness of a vampire. I either want to be hot as a vampire or not realize I'm a zombie. I don't need to realize that I'm a degrading vampire. Like, I look in the mirror and like my eyes look like I'm 60 because of the bags. So like the takeaway for this week is sleep is good. Yes, please sleep. Nom nom nom.
Nom nom nom.
I just never sleep. Like, what? It's not so hard. Like, my body needs it. It's supposed to sleep. And yet it's waking up and being like, no, we're done now. I'm not done. I'm not done. What about you? What's your key takeaway? After my small mental breakdown. Yeah,
my key takeaway is probably just to scrap this section. I'm kidding. No, my key takeaway for this week is that trying to think how to say it. Keep your integrity as an artist. Stuff I can't really like go into just because it's all very behind the scenes, but also talks are kind of still ongoing. But a situation has occurred in which I basically had to have like a real hard look in the mirror and at what was going on to then make a decision. And the decision could very much in the long run be to my detriment, but at the same time, like everything in my gut is screaming to the contrary. So it's quite annoying. I can't go deeper into it, especially right this minute. But yeah, it's you know, I know who I am, I know what I'm about, I know what I'm building, and so I'm not compromising that for anything really. Which is again, tough when there are certain things at stake. But say la vie, you live, you learn, you conquer. The win from the community for this week, I'm just plucking out myself, is we are welcoming the incredible Eden Collier onto the team. So so Eden joined the community. I want to say like a year and a half ago now. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, they joined. Yeah, because it was
Yeah, because they joined with the small little kind of class of that year.
Yeah. And they've become, a very fundamental core part to activated authors just as a whole. I was looking at expanding and doing some different things, and they have agreed to come on and run sprints and help out and do some stuff behind the scenes. And, you'll get to meet them much more clearly, much more. What's the word?
I don't know what you're trying to say.
Up close and personal, I guess. In the next few weeks,
to know them.
There we go. You'll get to know them. Much better in the next. I don't know. In the next few weeks,
that's been sleeping, dude.
I don't know. I have probably too much sleep. Ugh. I can only apologize. But yeah, so welcome to the team, Eden. Very, 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 very pleased to have you.
My son in particular is obsessed with Eden, and he is very excited that Eden is taking on a bigger role. And anytime he sees them, he just goes, Eden!
Yeah. So yeah, welcome to the team, Eden. Now into this week's topic.
Yeah. Oh, this one's going to ruffle some feathers. That was a callback to Cock. Calling back to Cock.
Oh yeah.
Where are you?
Are you so sorry?
I'm very happy with that, actually. Yeah. So the question this week is less a question, more a topic, as I've just been informed. And the topic is why writer's block is bullshit.
A real feather rustler.
I feel I can already feel people getting angry.
So, kind of on that, I would like to ask of you, Sam, what is writer's block? What do people believe writer's block is, if you were to define it, without going into like all the other mechanics of like the things that I know that that we're going to talk about?
Yeah,
what is writer's block?
I would say that writer's block is when you get to a point, either you get to a point when you're writing and you get blocked and you can't go any further because you've got writer's block and you've the muses have left you and you can no longer continue to write, or it's just you want to write a book or a story but you can't because you've got writer's block. It's this very romantic thing, I think. I've just been like, I have the writer's block.
Yeah. As you say, it's a very it's one of those things that's pretty much mostly only really associated with writing, obviously, like writer's block. And like even just a search into the kind of history of writer's block, it's it was popularized 100 years ago by if this article is accurate, Edmund Burglar, as a kind of
self-indulgent.
Pardon?
Was he quite self-indulgent? It's a very self-indulgent artist thing, isn't it, to say that?
Yeah, well, this is it. So yeah, as you say, writer's block is very much that notion of just going, oh, the muse isn't coming, I can't, like something is blocking me, I'm not able to work on this, step away from the computer,
I'm a creator.
Yeah. And the reason that I chose such an antagonistic title for this, and why it is why writer's block is bullshit, is because when people say that they have writer's block, speaking as someone who has coached his fair share of authors over the years, like studied behavior and psychology and all this kind of like other bits and pieces, what they're really saying, if you dig deep into it, is I'm stuck. And what happens in that stuckness is a form of procrastination. It's a form of I don't know how to get over this problem. The actual need to get over this obstacle is painful in some way. And so people step away. And I think because writer's block has been so popularized and shared amongst the writing community, it's one of those things that you can lean on and just go, oh, well, that's the reason. Must be what writer's block is. And you step away from the computer. Am I saying that people don't get stuck? Absolutely not.
No.
Am I saying that some people step away from their work and they struggle to get back to it for years and years and years? Absolutely, that happens. What I don't believe is that's writer's block's fault. What I believe is there are a number of different reasons that are basically just making it so that writing the book is hard. And there's a sort of fabled notion that, for a lot of people who are a bit more untrained, inexperienced in sort of the writing craft, that you get to the keyboard and the muse is going to sit there and basically tell you what to write. And it's fun and it's easy and you sweep through and the words come and it's beautiful and you're writing poetry and art and it's glorious. Those days come maybe, I don't know, once every 160 writing sessions. Like when they come, they're fucking glorious. But speaking as someone who has written like 70 plus books in the last 7 years, you know, there have been days where I've not wanted to write. There have been days where the story feels clunky and I've not felt that I could tackle that problem and that I could move on and get past whatever the thing was blocking me. Not once have I ever given up, because this is my profession. And I'm not saying that you have to be a professional writer to overcome this problem. What I'm saying is that you can overcome this problem. And so I kind of noted down a few, you know, of the common reasons for why people say that they have writer's block. And again, I'm not sort of disputing writer's block as a concept. What I'm saying is that there's going to be another reason as to why you feel stuck or can't move past it.
Yeah.
And so the first big obstacle to people, and you'll roll your eyes at this because this is basically one of the core principles I teach in Activated Authors, is people are scared of writing crap stuff. There's, again, this notion that when you're writing that you'll sit there and the words will flourish and you'll come up with a perfect sentence and everything else. And the fact is, like, not just in writing, but in every form of art, everything that you do in life, that's just not true. Like, you don't come running out of the womb. It would be a lot easier if you did, I imagine, for parents, for mothers specifically.
I don't know.
Well,
you've seen Alien, right?
Yeah, I guess, you know, you'd have to calculate the size and stuff. I took a turn. But yeah, like, you don't, like, kids don't just run, you know, you try to stand, you wobble, you fall, you try to walk, you wobble, you fall. And it's very much the same with writing. You write crap words, you learn what crap looks like, you get a bit better, you write a little bit less crap. But even now, you know, there are a few writers that are blessed to, you know, be practiced enough that they can write perfect solid streams of prose. But everyone, like, I've been editing like a nonfiction that I'm working on at the minute, and like the edits are heavy and like it's not great in my opinion. There's a lot of work that I need to do to it. Like, and was that book difficult to write? Yes. Did I feel stuck a few times? Yes. Did I keep moving forward? Yes, because I want to write books. I want to make it happen. So this fear of writing shit is something that blocks a lot of people, because you look at your own words and you go, well, I'm not a writer. How, like, if it's this hard, how can I be a writer? But the truth is, you have to push through. You have to write crap stuff. And I've said to you before, and I've said to like everyone in the Activated Authors community, I've had days where it is just pure drudgery writing. I've had days in which I've written drunk out of my mind. Not proud of it, but you know, those sessions were fun. I've had
there probably is videos on the internet if you look hard enough to see Dan writing drunk. It's glorious.
There's definitely videos. And I've written on days where the words have come and it's been really good, and like I've just felt on top of the world writing. And the interesting thing is, going back in those edits, I can never tell what days were what, because it's all like it's so much in the mind, this concept of having to write really, really well first time round, and not just letting yourself unleash and have fun and experiment and be bad for a bit, because all the good comes in edits, all the good.
Yeah, you're writing shit. You're not publishing shit. There's a huge fucking vastness of ground to cover between the first draft and pressing publish. And like, no one's going to make you press publish. So you have all of that space, all of that time to make it sing, to make it shine, to make it pretty. Like, you cannot edit a blank page unless you're like making origami, in which case go ahead. But this isn't Activated Origami Makers.
Even then, you still need like structure and lines and templates and stuff.
Yeah,
like, because let's compare this to, you know, painting, because I know that you like to paint a lot. Like, do you just get the paint and paint? So let's take that one behind you, for example, that wonderful multicolor. What would you call that piece?
I did give it a name. I can't remember, to be honest. It's just a representation of where I am at the minute. So I don't know. Let's call it
sploosh. So looking
freedom splooshed.
But like, when you first took to painting that, was it a case of just throwing paint onto the canvas?
No. So like, first of all, I made a mood board of what I wanted it to be.
Research.
And I can't remember her name, but I will put it in the show notes, because this painting that I've done is like so heavily inspired by an artist, and it's really annoying me that I can't remember her name, but I love her stuff and she's fucking phenomenal. And there is a painting of hers, I think it's called Freedom, something like that, and it's a woman jumping in the air, and there's like lines bursting out of her in color similar to this, and there's like birds, and it's like coming out basically out of her rib cage, and it's just like this expression of joy and freedom and weightlessness. So when I saw that, I knew that's what I wanted to do. So did the research, did all of that stuff, and then I sketched it out.
Planning.
And then I got the canvas and I sketched it out again. And then very slowly I put her in first, and then I like mixed my paints, got my pipettes out and painted it. But no, it's
stages, bit by bit. Yeah, and that's just a reality that if you're going to be a writer, if you're going to write books and stuff, you just have to face, like, there is a process to this, and the process is start, do, finish.
Yes.
There just is. Allow yourself to write the bad stuff. Maybe the book doesn't go quite in the direction that you want to. Finish it so you can then edit it and do more work and other bits and pieces. But just keep pushing forward. So yeah, that's one of the reasons is fear of writing bad stuff.
Yeah.
Another reason I've seen a lot is not wanting it bad enough to face the problem that you've got, because some people think, oh, I'm going to write a book, but don't realize that it is tough and it is work and it is very mentally taxing,
and it's long.
Yeah, like I cannot count the amount of friends that I have that are just like, I think I mentioned this before, but I had a conversation with one of my friends where I was like, oh, I've hired a VA, and they were like, really, like you've got that much work? And I'm like, yes, this is a job, like this is my employment. Like I don't, even though I get to sit and write stories every day, it's not glamorous work. I sit by myself in a room most of the time staring at Zoom. Like it's not getting into the office and having fun with coworkers. And I know it's not always that simple, but anyhow. So yeah, one of the reasons is not wanting it hard enough, because you get a quarter of a way into a book and you go, oh, this is hard, actually this isn't for me. And you're right, maybe it's not for you. Maybe you've tried and it's just not worked out, and you've got other things that are more important to you than this, which is fine. Everyone's different. But that kind of just not having the hunger for it, because a book is a marathon. Do you know what I mean? Like you can go outside and you can jog around the block, or you can commit to the marathon, like the London Marathon. And jogging around the block is something you can try very quickly and maybe get a bit wheezy and it's a bit difficult. But if you're going for a marathon, you put in the work.
Yeah, you do.
You have to.
Yeah.
So that's two reasons. Another one that I come across quite a lot is under planning your book. And this is one that actually I fall short of sometimes. So you'll get to a point in your book and suddenly like the characters just disappear, the world disappears, the story disappears, and you're like, I don't know what to do next. And you think that you've planned enough of your story to make it happen and to know what happens. But what sometimes happens is, say you're a quarter of the way through your book. In that quarter of the way through your book starts to take a shape of its own. So in your planning, you have every intention of your characters doing certain things, but then your book goes off. It happens. It does. Like in my book, every single time it never sticks to a plan. So what I'd recommend there is realign, sit down and just replan, or like update your plan, or spend a bit of time. Like it's okay to step away with the intention of, the cogs. Yeah, of working the cogs and keeping moving forward. But maybe just under plan to the point that like you don't know what happens next. Like I had it with a couple of my earlier books where I didn't know the ending, and that was an issue for me. So now in my process, I make sure that I know roughly an ending.
Yes.
That would work, so I can work towards something resembling that ending. It, again, that is always different. So under planning is a big one, and then the other side of it I've seen is over planning. Like getting lost with
10 years in, still building the world.
Not
a word written.
Screw you. By the way, the reason I keep saying this, just so people don't think I'm just abusing you, is there's a member in our community who says and for whatever reason I picked up that mannerism, which is
and I publicly called that out on it in a very like,
and now I can't stop noticing it, and it's really annoying. It's all right. He's a beautiful person. There's worse people to emulate. So over planning is another one. Too much world building. So you either get to a point where you world build and never feel ready to write the book, which is a problem. Or kind of conversely to that is you world build so much that when you start writing the book, you're trying to squeeze all of the things that you have and all that work that you've done into something so small. And the point of world building is to give yourself the feeling, the concept, the notion of what is going on in the story of the world that your characters exhibit. It's not to show off on the page all the work that you've done. Good world building, a lot of the time, is invisible. Yeah, like all that work, all the different like social structures and religions and places and locations and times and history, all that kind of stuff. Like it's good to be there, especially for you if you want to have some kind of notion of building a bigger thing. You look at your series and stuff. But yeah, it's invisible most of the time. Like you just thread it a little bit into the story and make it believable enough to go on. But I've seen people get paralyzed by that, where they're just like, I've done too much and I don't know how to write this story.
Yeah, I think when it comes to world building in particular, there definitely, I think, comes a point where it becomes paralyzing, because I live in this world right now. I understand to a greater or lesser extent like societal expectations and pressures and laws and rules, and generally speaking the kind of thing that like if I go out wearing, like, no one will bat an eye because it is the clothing of the time, but you know, if I went out in a corset and bustle, people would look at me like, what the hell? Like I understand all of that. I understand all of those things, how to get food, how to get water, all the kind of basic stuff that we just kind of assimilate into our brains as we grow up. But that's all I need to know to live here. But my point is that I live in this world and I don't know all of this shit. I understand as like a creator of a story and a world that you want to know everything, but you don't need to. Like, you need to know as much as the story is going to need, and then maybe some padding around that to kind of inform why characters speak to certain characters a particular way, or why they wouldn't turn left in the woods. Maybe there's an old tale, but you don't need to say all of that stuff. It's like you say, it's more for you, and then there will be times where it needs to pop up here and there in the story when it's relevant. But yeah, I do think people just get paralyzed into like, until this world is complete and I know every inch of it,
you won't.
I cannot write this book, and that's never going to be the case.
Yeah, I was talking to our good friend Jonathan Yanez earlier this week about sort of a lot of plotting and planning, and because he's got, I think, a dozen series, most with at least 6 books, many with more in that series. And I was curious about, world Bibles, how he plans it all. And a lot of this is, fantasy and sci-fi. So again, you need certain world building elements. And his process, and again, this isn't going to be, for everyone, but his process is just write it and world build as you go.
Yeah.
Like, what is relevant to this character? How do I build this? Okay, this is now in canon. And again, that doesn't work for everyone because, it can be quite messy. He benefits from the fact that he writes a lot very fast. So it's all very present in his head as he's going through. Whereas if you're writing a series over like 7 years, obviously you're going to forget things. So yeah, it's like we always teach, kind of like take your approach. But yeah, those are kind of the 4 main ones that I see a lot. And I've also pulled, because I feel like there's a couple of resources that I'd highly recommend for people that want to find ways to overcome writer's block. One of them won't surprise anyone at all, which is The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. Is just seminal when it comes to this.
Good. You need a commission on this book.
I really do. I would a lot in affiliates. But like, it is absolutely just to the point. Like, again, sort of the second half is a bit woo-woo in my opinion. The first half is very, very powerful. And it just talks about resistance, which is what writer's block arguably is. It's a very strong form of resistance. And anytime you meet resistance, kind of like the whole point of this episode is you have to identify what that resistance is. And what I'm saying is resistance isn't writer's block.
No.
There is another reason why it's hard, or why you're not willing to push past the discomfort. Because if writing were easy, everyone would do it, and the fact is they don't. And actually, a lot of my thinking, because I've been writing for 7 years. I first came I suffered from writer's block for the first year on a few different occasions, and then I kind of learned all of these truths. But one of the big lessons that I took away was from Seth Godin, who talks. Well, it was the line that caught me was specifically, "Plumbers don't get plumber's block."
Mm-hmm.
And you give me one other career, hobby, skill in which there's some kind of creative block that prevents people, this sort of abstract, otherworldly concept that is putting their hand on your shoulder and pulling you away from the keyboard. It's just not there.
No,
It's just not. Like, again, I'm not disqualifying that there are legitimate reasons why it's hard, why it's difficult, why you might want to step away for a little bit.
mm-hmm.
But I just think it's one of those things that's permeated and become a bit of an easy crutch for people to lean on when things get hard.
I think it's dangerous as well, actually. I think there are a few I'm trying to think of the term. There are a few ideas, let's say, that orbit creative people and careers and work that are, I believe, at their root dangerous for a few reasons. So the first one, which I won't go into too much because it's not what this episode about, is like suffering for your art. And I've spoken to you about this before, and it makes me sick because I think in Big Magic, Elizabeth Gilbert is talking about, when people say no, but the reason we have like amazing Van Goghs is because, of his mental illness. And she's like, I would argue that if he was medicated with a therapist, we'd have a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Like, talent doesn't come from suffering.
No.
And the idea that it does is inherently dangerous.
Can suffering create unique art? Absolutely.
Yes.
Do you need to suffer to make art?
No. And in fact, like, it's a lot easier to make art when you're not suffering. So much easier. But writer's block, I believe, is another one that is dangerous because it is this idea, and it's dangerous in a different way. It's not, I don't think it's like physically dangerous, whereas obviously the suffering one can be, especially to young artists, impressionable minds, think they have to kind of hurt and this kind of stuff. But this idea of writer's block is very woo-woo. It is very romantic. This idea of I am a creative and, I don't have it today, and you couldn't possibly understand because you're not touched by the muses as I am. And I'm certainly not saying that everyone out there that said they've had writer's block is feeling that. I'm saying it comes from this idea of that, of, like this otherworldly kind of thing you couldn't possibly understand. And the reason I think it's dangerous is that you get people of all ages that have a dream of being a writer, and they come to the page and they don't know how to start, or they start writing and then they get stuck. And instead of understanding that that's a normal, natural part of the process of being a writer, and writing and creating, they think either they're not a writer because they can't do it, or they believe they've got writer's block. And you hear a lot about writer's block, but you don't hear a lot about overcoming writer's block. It's just, it's kind of like they're blocked kind of thing. And either way, it results in this kind of giving up of dreams and passions. And like you've said so many times before, you don't go to one dance class and quit halfway through because you can't do like a perfect plie in second. You don't go to, I don't know, a pasta making class and throw in your apron because you got the wrong ratio of flour and egg. I don't know how you make pasta. Life short. You don't go to college to learn to become a physicist, and the first like theory of something that doesn't quite make sense to you, just be like, oh, I'm not a physicist. Like it doesn't exist in anything else, but we expect that if we aren't touched by the muse and we don't sit down and just write beautifully, then we're not writers. But that's bullshit. Like, the reason writer's block kind of has permeated so deeply and has become almost like urban legend kind of fucking level is because it's so hard. And it probably started with someone trying to explain to someone who doesn't understand writing why they're struggling.
Yeah.
Like, it's probably one of those things that has a very small origin that has blown into this big romantic thing. And the truth is, like you say, there is a reason that you are feeling blocked, and it will be a plethora of other things. Life, you're very new at this, so it's difficult, or you're tired, or you haven't planned, or you've overplanned, or all the other things that you've talked about. But instead of kind of diving into ourselves a bit and figuring out what's going on here, or trying to just work the problem, free writing around it, saying, okay, I'll come back to this bit, just leave myself a note and carry on writing, it is just easier, honestly, to just be like, I'm blocked.
Yeah, and this is really where it's going to ruffle feathers, because again, like, by putting this episode out, by saying what we're saying, like, we're not judging anyone who has felt or does feel like they're currently in this situation. Like, we're not shaming anybody. As I say, like,
No.
I've personally thought at certain points that I've experienced writer's block. Like, hindsight and further education has proven otherwise. But like, we have a whole raft of authors, inactivated authors, from like a whole raft of different backgrounds, and every single one of them gets stuck sometimes.
Yeah.
Every
Oh
single one of
God.
them has a moment in which they doubt themselves, in which other things are going on in life, in which they are burned out. That's another very
That's a very big one. I meant to mention
we'll
that earlier when you were saying, yeah,
we'll circle back to that. But like, there are lots of like all of these different authors, again, from different genders, different backgrounds, different careers, different phases of their life. Like, they're all putting in the work and able to move forward, and kind of have now gotten to the point where they've understood the notion that, like, it's not writer's block, there's something else to it. And kind of in that, circling back to burnout, something that I think it's popping more and more in my mind, and might be something I'll talk a lot more about over the next year or two, is alignment. Is like, often if you get to the keyboard and you're not finding yourself motivated or able to put the words down, my argument would be, are you sleeping enough? Have you eaten? Have you drunk enough? Is there something going on in your relationship that is taking up your mind? Have you exercised recently? Have you gone for a walk? Like, we can't isolate what writing, what creativity is, in the whole scope of what it is to be a human being. And that's something that a lot of people just don't consider. Like, if you've got financial troubles and you're sitting at the keyboards, and in the back of your mind you're going like, where the fuck am I going to find £500 this month? That's going to make things harder. Yep. Like, you're gonna have to find a way to work around that before you then get your fingers onto the keyboard, because like, we have to take care of number one and make sure that we are healthy and happy as human beings.
Yeah.
Before you can kind of write perfectly. But
yes,
yeah, that a lot of that stuff, if a lot of that stuff isn't in alignment and you do get into burnout, over to you, Sam.
I was gonna say as well, like, don't, like Dan said, we're not recording this to shame anyone. In fact, actually, no. I think this could be very helpful, because once you realize that hitting writer's block isn't a death sentence,
yes,
it isn't a wall that you can't get past, like, there's nothing wrong with thinking of writer's block as an umbrella term. Okay, like, I've hit, like, if that term resonates with you,
resistance,
yeah, that's fine. Like, okay, so I've hit some resistance here, what is it? But instead of giving it this mythical godlike power of, I've got writer's block, I might never be able to write again, because it has been given such weight that people do genuinely feel that way, like, fuck, I'm not going to be able to write again. But instead of that, just know that what we're trying to say is, absolutely, there is a way around it. You just have to figure out what particular thing or what kind of group of things is causing that for you. And burnout in particular is a big one. And I think a lot of the time we are happy to lean into minor excuses to get out of stuff that we don't want to do, right? Like, oh no, I don't know, like not feeling it or whatever.
Got a little bit of a headache. I'm not going to go.
Yeah. But then when it comes to the big shit, for some reason, we label that as an excuse. Burnout is a very real thing. And it doesn't just apply to writers. It doesn't just apply to creatives. Like, you can have a burnt out plumber.
It genuinely is a growing epidemic. I did a lot of research on it earlier this year for some stuff I was doing, and yeah, particularly workplace burnout, like cases are rising, like because we live in a very fast moving age in which people are expected to be contactable 24/7.
Yep.
You know, without going too deep into this, which I could, but like
everyone.
Yeah, the advent of phones, you know, family life, like just how quickly just life moves. Like it has raised what our expectations are as people, and therefore what we expect of ourselves to play catch up, and that leads to burnout because we're like, as humans, we're not yet built biologically for that kind of demand.
No, there's there's a reason you look at dogs and you're like, that looks like a good life. We used to have that life.
We used to hunt for an hour, 2 hours a day, eat and sleep.
And fuck.
Yeah.
Let's not forget that one, because we wouldn't be here if that part didn't happen. That was it. That was it. That was our lives. And then, I mean, am I wrong?
No.
I get into trouble for saying the truth.
No, we want the truth.
That's what I'm saying.
It's going totally out of left field. Yeah, you're good. You're good.
We hunted. We ate the food. We
reproduced,
and then we went to sleep.
Yeah.
And then we did it again.
Yeah.
That's what we did. So we had. I mean, arguably there wasn't a like an owner of us petting our heads like you do with your doggos. But like generally speaking, we had that life, and you know, the rate of kind of evolution of technology, like you say, has been supersonic, and we're supposed to, number one, love all of the advances, and number two, keep up with everything. And like the rat race used to just be around kind of like very high pressured corporate jobs, and people kind of knew what they were getting into most of the
time. After clocking off at 5 o'clock and not being able to take their work home with them.
And it's done this, and as like, you know, everything goes up in price, people are getting second jobs, and also wanting a side hustle because they don't want to have to do their main job and a second job. They just want to do the thing that they love. And so you're working 3 jobs, and if you are in a relationship, and if you have children or family members or friends or pets or any other connections, like everything takes a piece of you. And if you're not taking time to put those pieces back and or replenish your pieces, Jesus Christ.
It's real interesting. Like as I put this question, I was like, oh, this will be like a 10-minute conversation.
No, it's not. It isn't.
But yeah, like, but you go.
I was just gonna say, yeah, if you're not, but you know what? Like, yeah, replenishing yourself, taking time yourself, all of that stuff is important. But I also do think that like it is a symptom, a big one, of the way that everybody lives these days, at least in the Western world. And I think that it's folly of me to just be like, you need to do this and you need to do this and you need to do this, without accepting the fact that like it's not really your fault that you're feeling this way. Like it's not, it's like with mental health, like it's not your fault, but it's kind of your responsibility to deal with it. And you're like, fuck off.
Yeah.
When? What? Why?
But yeah, that's so
fair.
Yeah, so you know, burnout is a legitimate factor as well. The hard part about all of these is identifying what that is, because again, if you're new to this space, you know, I've been through enough books now, I've been through enough phases to know the difference most of the time, even like it's not an exact science. But like I'll know that if I get to the keyboard and I am having a day in which, you know, the words are difficult and like I'm really struggling just to get like a few hundred, then I am approaching burnout. So the best thing I can do in that situation is to take 2-3 days away.
Mhm.
Like, I'll still read, I'll do other work, bits and pieces, but it's a very calculated, specific decision, and it's based on the fact that I know that mentally I am taxed and I need to creatively fill. Similarly to under planning, like if I get to a part in the story and I'm like, I cannot see the way forward, I don't step away from the project. I just get out a bit of scrap paper, not literally
Work the problem.
work the problem. Like, there's a real we're not taught to work the problem. We're not taught to face the obstacle, because there are so many other alternatives and easy things to jump into to take our attention. And again, like, repeating this a lot, none of this is judgmental, none of this is shaming. It just really is like the reality that we face. So I am going to kind of start to bring us to a close, and again, put you a little bit on the spot with, what would you say is a method of overcoming resistance if you get stuck in writing your book?
Okay. The first thing you need to do is figure out what it is. I think, like, you need to diagnose your particular issue.
How?
Well, I'm about to say. Oh my God, jumped down my throat.
When?
Oh my
Why?
Lord.
Using what?
So, like,
I want figures.
there's a couple of ways you can do it. Speak to someone that you love. If you are fortunate enough to have someone, because we don't all. Speak to either someone that you live with, if you're living with parents, friends, roommates. I was about to say lovers then, lovers. And just be like, have you noticed anything off about me recently? And because often other people will notice you're in burnout before you do.
Yeah.
Or at least they'll notice you're approaching it. You become more what's the word, like agitable.
we have a I won't name them, but we have a very strong empath in Activated Authors who is key at this.
Oh my God, yeah. But if you have someone in your life that you trust and that knows you very well, you speak to them, because they may be able to diagnose that for you. If everything's fine in that area, like, is what you're writing triggering you in some way? Like, I know for me, there's been a couple of times, even just in planning something, where what I'm doing is very triggering to me. And I need to either take a breath and work through it slowly, or just like take a beat and come away and think about it gently, and then come back and rework it. Is it just that you have a knowledge gap? Yes. In which case, like, Google exists, work the problem. Is it that you've written yourself into a corner? Are you sat there going, I don't know how to get out of this particular problem? Okay, well, if that's the case, then I find free writing is very helpful. Yes. So you just open another document, like copy and paste maybe the last paragraph of what you've written, and then just free write. Just keep your fingers on the keys and just keep writing. And even if it is literally, I don't know what to write, I don't know how they're going to get out of this, what the fuck have I done? Like, just write that all down. None of this is being published. None of this is being included in the book. Just keep writing until your brain stops wanting to write that. And then you're like, oh, maybe this could happen or this could happen. And essentially it's a mini vomit draft of like your tension point that you're finding difficulty to get past. And then, is there something in your life? Have you just had a big argument? Is your boss a dick? And they've been an extra fucking dick today, or they are like really putting pressure on. Are you taking on everybody's problems from your family, and it's all coming in right now? And instead of like realizing that you're thinking that you're just a shit writer, it is just a case of stepping away and just trying to just have a think, write down like the things that you've got going on in your life at the minute, see if there's anything in particular. And if all of that doesn't work, just speak to someone, in the sense of go to your doctors, have a chat with your doctor, go to go to a coffee morning with strangers, sit next to Ethel, she loves a chat, and just spew out everything. Like, find someone to speak to about it. I know a wonderful community that has a 30-day free trial that would allow you to talk through stuff with you. But yeah, just talk it out or write it out. And when you figure out the point, all the 25 different points of all the things that you've been putting off because it hurts to think about, again, no shame. That is basically my entire life up until about 12 years ago, was just putting everything off. And it does hurt more to face it. But when you get over it, it's a lot easier. Yeah. And then you know the problem. And then you can work on that particular problem. And again, Google is the thing. You can find all sorts on there. There's lots of different craft and storybooks. There's lots of different planning and plotting books. YouTube has a plethora of videos, not just on writing, but on psychology, on like families and all that kind of stuff. You can find what you need. Like, one of the advantages of this insane world that we live in is that there is so much information at your fingertips. And when you know what you're looking for,
that's the key bit.
Yeah.
There's
so
a lot
the
of
first thing you have to do, the first thing you have to do is diagnose your problem and just step away from this idea of it being an all-encompassing writer's block. You haven't been caged and can never do anything again. There is a very specific something or some things that is causing this resistance. So diagnose and then find out how to fix it.
Yeah.
And it could just be as simple as you need to go to bed.
Yeah, I've been there. Could be
Like,
as simple as like, I've not eaten in 6 hours. Why?
I haven't taken a breath of fresh air.
Yeah. So yeah, just one thing that I want to just draw attention to that you just said as well is the idea of bringing in someone else into your problem.
Yes.
So, actually talking to someone and just voicing things out loud can just change how your brain processes it, how you see the problem. And I've had like so many conversations with authors over the years where we've spoken about a story for like 10-15 minutes and just new solutions have just popped out. Like, some people get so strapped into what their plan is, this rigid plan of how the book goes, they don't open themselves up to this possibility that they're telling themselves, their mind is telling themselves this story going slightly off angle could be better than they originally had. So yeah, that's one side of the thing. And then also just I want to kind of say, like, we've literally had an example of this at work this month within the 50k writing camp that we've been running. Again, naming no names, and like incredibly proud of this person. But like a week into Nano, they were ready to hand in the towel. Like, they didn't have it in them. It wasn't going to work. Like, they hit the block. And a talk, a leaning on the community, everyone banding together. That person wrapped up their 50,000 words like yesterday, like a week ahead of schedule. So like, there's a way forward is the ultimate truth of what I've learned. Like, there is a way forward. And the final part of my input, because I do have quite a nice little wrap up in a second, if I do say so myself. The final kind of like part for me is that if you've tried all these things, if it's still tough, if it's still not working for you, quitting is okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to keep smashing your face against the rock. Like, the truth is, it might not be for you.
Yeah.
Like, maybe the actual reality of sitting down and writing and finding time, whether it's because your life is too busy, whether it's just because other things do interest you. Maybe you want to play the drums or run, or I don't know, like all these other things. Like, it just might not be your highest priority. So it's okay to quit. Like,
don't like. I'm trying to think of the words. Don't stop the world from being able to see what it is you are truly passionate about, because you're being stubborn about something that maybe isn't right for you. Like, it's okay to step away. Maybe you'll come back at some point. Maybe you won't. It doesn't matter. Like, if it's not meant for you right now, then that's okay. Like, and I'm big on that. Like Dan said, maybe it's the drums. Maybe you find true fire and passion and still resistance. Let's not let's not like bullshit.
Well, if you'll allow me to use a little bit of your story, I'd like, one of the struggles that I remember you facing last year was this almost pigeonholing into becoming a writer and writing prose, and a discovery in working out that for yourself, you love writing, but that's not purely where your heart lies. Your heart lies in the actual creative process in all these different mediums. Don't know if you want to just touch on that like a little bit. Yeah.
So I very quickly, like, I used to want to be a singer when I was very little. Well, first of all, I wanted to be a ballerina. Then I wanted to be a singer. And then I wanted to be an actor, and I went to drama school and I trained. I had a mental breakdown. I wasn't aware of it at the time. Um, and I stepped away from that for a bit. And then I've always enjoyed painting and drawing and sewing and all of these other things. And then I stumbled into writing. And it was this idea of, now I felt that I belonged to a group of people, and I actually felt that I fit somewhere because I understood my own mental health and I was working on recovery and things, and I started to feel like a whole person. That I almost felt trapped. I loved the people. I loved them so much in our community. Like, I would do so much for all of them. But I started to feel like I didn't belong because everyone was so passionate about writing. And for me, I'm passionate about creating. I love singing and acting and dancing badly, and and painting and sewing and like decorating, and anything that I can pull the corners of and mold it into something, whether that is like physically holding clay or using words. It lights me up. And the idea of having to narrow myself into, and I hate saying just being a writer, because for a lot of people being a writer is everything to them, and I don't mean that in any way as an insult or like a minimizing of your passion. Just for me, I'm multi-passionated, multi-passionate and multi-passionated. And I have to feed all of those things for my, not just for my mental health, but just for my spirit and my soul and my happiness. And so there are weeks where I don't go anywhere near writing, and I'm quite happy with that, because I'll be doing something else. And then I'll get a bit bored of doing that for a bit, and then I'll go back to writing, and then I'll carry on, or doing lots of things at once. But yeah, I think it's important to understand that you're not letting anyone down.
Yeah, the two big questions that I've used with people, and I'd ask you to really consider, and when I say like think about it, I mean really like close your eyes and imagine, is what would it feel like to hold your book in your hands? What would that moment feel like? Where are you? How long has that taken? Who's with you? All those questions. What does that feel like? Is it joyous? Is it sort of, not any more important than holding a bowl of cornflakes? Like, what does it truly feel like, that idea of you holding a book in your hands? And then once you kind of envision that is on the other side, what would it feel like to know that you're 80 years old and this never happened? And you went all of those years and you would never be able to hold your book in your hand. How would that feel? Because both of those can be a reality. And it's really about getting in touch with your wants, your needs, your goals, and seeing how important that is to you. Because if, you feel overjoyed and elated and ecstatic at having a book, write the book. If you feel miserable and just totally unhappy and like you don't want to feel that like heart-wrenching pain of getting to 80 years old and going like, I haven't written a book, I can't believe I've spent 80 years not writing a book, then write the fucking book. No excuses, get it done.
But on the other hand,
go on.
I was going to say, on the other hand, if I close my eyes at 80 years old, thinking about being 80 years old, and think about what it would feel like to never hold a Michelin star in my hand, I've got no fucks to give.
Oh yeah, screw that.
So it's like both of them work both ways.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, rounding off, I have actually taken from Seth Godin's blog because he writes like basically a daily blog, and he has been for years, and it's very, very like widely viewed. But he wrote an article in 2020 called "The Simple Cure for Writer's Block," and it goes thus: Right, people with writer's block don't have a problem with typing; they have a problem living with bad writing, imperfect writing that might expose something that they fear. The best way to address this isn't to wait to be perfect, because if you wait, you'll never get there. The best way to deal with it is to write, and to realize that your bad writing isn't fatal. Like all skills, we improve with practice and with feedback.
Oh, yeah.
No more need be said. So yeah.
Started with that. This episode would have been a lot shorter.
Yeah. This is now the longest episode we've ever done.
Oh, well, I mean, there are some like, and at this point, gentle listeners or viewers, you will have probably noticed there's some heavy jump cuts.
That's so good. That's so good. But yeah, as usual, we'll let you guys know that we have our free 30-day trial for activated authors. So by all means, if you want to level up your writing, activate your author career, come on over and join myself and Sam in that community and get a host of all the good things. Then you can find all that out on activatedauthors.com. And I would just say a massive thank you to you, the listeners. Thank you, Sam, for always being with me every single week. And I'm trying to tweak the ending a bit. It's not going well. It's not smooth anyway.
I felt very seen, though.
Oh, good.
It made me feel very seen.
Finally passed immemorable.
Oh, not now you haven't.
So one more time from myself and from Sam, we will see you next week.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Activate your energy.